So for Kaylee's purposes, will you expand those out for me? And when it's squared, remember that doesn't mean you square each term. That means you take it times itself. So you have to FOIL. Are we done with the first one? What did we get? X squared plus 6x, whoops, plus 6x plus 9. That's what we got, right? Okay. So I want you to do that for each one of those up there. Okay, so what did you get when you take x minus 3 and square it? Minus 6x plus 9. What about the next one? Let's go to the black one. X squared plus 12x plus 36. So let's go back to the purple one, and you should get x squared minus 4/3 x plus 4/9. Do you agree with that? Do you see any pattern so that you don't actually have to FOIL it out when you square a binomial? Yes. So each one of, so if I look at it, every single middle term is double. Every single one of those is double this number, right? Every single one of them is double that number. But if I look at this last number, it's the same thing as doing what to that number? It's the same thing as squaring it. It's the same exact thing as squaring it. So if I were given this, do you think you could factor it into this? What would you do to this number? The 12. What would I do if I look at the black equation? What would I do to the 12 to come up with what's in parentheses? Divide by 2. I would divide by 2 to get that number that goes in the parentheses in my binomial. After I get that number, I could say, oh, well, it's the square of 6 gives you 36, right? With that in mind, the last problem that, let me give you another one. What was it? Sorry, I got to go here, and I got to go to IXL and see what that equation was. Minus 36y plus 39. So if we go back to this equation right here, x squared plus y squared, oh shoot, I forgot, plus 16 minus 16y. Minus 16y plus 39 equals 0. Okay, so if I give you this right here, everybody there for a second? Everybody see where I'm at? And we talked about setting it up to try to put it into a standard form for a circle. X squared plus y squared minus 16y equals negative 39. I just moved the 39 over. But the problem is when I talk about that general form for a circle in terms of x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. My x is by itself, and I know that the center of the circle is 0. But what happens with this y information right here? Is it in this format right there? It's not, is it? In algebra, what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. Would you agree with that? What could I do to this to get it in a format that looks like this? Well, we looked at that 16 before. When we came over here, I said something about this 12. If I look at that 12, what can I put inside here? Half of it. So if I look at this 16 here, what can I do to put a number right here? Take half of it, right? If I take half of it, I'm going to get a -8. But what do you do to it to get that trinomial? Square it. And what's -8 squared? 64. So if I put a 64 right here, would you agree that x minus 8 squared is equal to what's in parentheses up above, y squared minus 16y plus 64? Would you agree with that? Now, what did I do to this equation right here of x squared plus y squared minus 16y equals -39? I added something to this side, didn't I? What did I add to the left-hand side? Oh, wow. How did that happen? I added this 64 right there, right? To keep it balanced, what do you have to do to this side of the equation? Add 64 to this side of the equation. I still have my x squared here. All I did was rearrange this into a different format. Do you see how I knew to add 64 though? I divided the y coefficient by 2 and then squared it. What is 64 minus 39? Is it 25? What is the center of your circle? Now is it in a format you can tell me more about your circle? Yeah. What is the center of my circle? The center is 0, 8. What is the radius of your circle? 5. Do you see how that format helps? And when I take this coefficient of y and I divide it by 2 to get this -8, and I square it and put this 64 here, that process that you're going through is known as completing the square. I completed it so that it turned into a perfect square. I did something to it to make it a perfect square. But if I add 64 to one side, I have to add 64 to the other side. Now it tells you information about your circle. Okay, and the bell's going to ring because you have to go to lunch, so you can go to your assembly. We're going to continue with this tomorrow. That's IXL V.5. If you haven't finished V.1 through V.4, can you please continue to work on that? Good luck with your games tonight, and I think the bell's going to ring for lunch, I think.